Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Travel. Today, I have two very special guests with me. First guest comes to us from Northern California, and he's a newcomer to the podcasting scene. Please welcome Chris Christensen. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Very good, Gary.
And also joining us, another newbie. Please, we'll have to be gentle with her. Jen Leo.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody.
Yeah, we don't have any guests this week because Google Hangouts, which is what we record this on, just isn't working today.
We may still get a guest. Linda Martin from the Indie Travel Podcast is still trying. She's installing plugins. But
yeah,
this has been a day for technical issues. We've been trying to do this podcast already for about 45 minutes. So.
An hour for you, Chris.
And the troubles we often have with this, because I've always found it to be a rather simple program. I mean, usually just kind of works first time, but maybe that's just because we use it so much. But anyways, we have travel stuff to talk about, because that's what the show is about. We may not stick up to the this week part of the show, but we can certainly stick to the travel part of the show.
I love the news stories this week. They're really fun.
Okay, this one is interesting. A woman tried to hide a child in a carry-on bag on an Air France flight. This, I think, is just a natural result of charging people for checking a bag. That they're no longer smuggling people in check bags, they're now trying to smuggle them in carry-on bags.
Well, until I read the article, I thought maybe the child was just bothering them or being too loud or running around too much, and she just tried to contain her. But then we read the article.
Yeah, it's really an issue of she was trying to adopt a child and apparently didn't have all the right paperwork, so decided the next best option would be to try and smuggle the child in, which did not work.
And don't you think that makes her less of a candidate for the adoption going through?
Well, they already gave her the child, so somebody, I think, at some point decided that this was somebody who could be trusted with a child. It may cause them to reevaluate that.
Oh my gosh, how horrifying for the kid. Here's your new mother, and she just asked you to get into a suitcase. Hope you can breathe.
It was a carry-on.
The child, they said, appeared to be between 2 and 4 years old, which means that this was not a newborn.
Right.
I mean, you know,
well, thank goodness.
Granted, yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying is, just in terms of the size of the child, this isn't like you could easily fit this in the carry-on bin. I think it would require a little bit of work. I mean, you may know what a 3 to 4 year old child is better than me, but it's not trivial.
They would have to bend in half, for sure.
And be quiet. And that's the other thing I'm kind of...
That's the harder to believe, yeah.
But here's the amazing thing. I think this woman got through security with a person in her bag, which doesn't really say a whole lot about their security procedures.
Maybe she thought that if she could get the kid on board, then she could sneakily unzip this case and the child could sit in her lap.
Oh, she did. She did, because somebody noticed the child coming out of the bag.
Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Do not try this at home.
Kids don't try this at home.
What is the, I don't know what this is, what is the rules regarding buying a ticket for a child?
You have to start paying for them once they hit 2 years old.
Yeah.
Before that, it's free.
They can be on your lap beforehand, but if they need a seat, which they do starting at 2, then you have to buy a ticket.
But even if they're under 2 and they're free, you still have to say that they're coming with you.
Yeah.
You still have to fill out the form.
This one is also kind of interesting. So I believe this is in the UK, in the town of Grimsby, the police are rather annoyed because one of the people in the Grimsby police station jail smuggled in a phone, took some photos, and did a TripAdvisor review for the jail, including pictures of their meal.
Which we would have to say did not get high stars. The meal really got very poor reviews there on TripAdvisor. But I heard about this from the TripAdvisor engineers in the chat room. We all thought it was hilarious. The police did not think it was so hilarious because smuggling in a phone is definitely contraband. You were not supposed to have a phone when you were in jail. So someone screwed up that let them come in.
Well, they should feel very good that they got 4 stars.
Did they get 4 stars?
4 stars, really?
I think that's what it said. He
I don't
said,
know, but-
I've given this place 4 stars. It's the all-day breakfast that lets it down, really. Apart from that, the staff are pleasant enough.
You know what would be
That is
awesome?
actually pretty good.
Is those TripAdvisor stickers they always have at the front of a hotel? If
Yes.
they send one to the Chris, you should tell the people at TripAdvisor to do this.
To send
We are the
them
number 1 ranked police station in Grimsby. Ranked number 1 on TripAdvisor.
Now, one thing to know when you see those stickers, this is something that people don't realize, is just seeing a sticker on the outside that says rated on TripAdvisor doesn't mean it's well rated on TripAdvisor. But you'll notice a lot of restaurants, for instance, I see it, put up the sticker that says rated on TripAdvisor. That means you can go look and see how well it was rated. But if you want something that's good, there's the I'm trying to think if there's another one that is Certificate of Excellence. That means it is highly rated on TripAdvisor.
Time out, breaking news. Corey Taratuta of the Irish Fireside can jump on now.
Well, get them on.
Yeah, I'll believe that when I see it.
And I should note to everyone listening, we're recording this on St. Patrick's Day. And we've had him on several St. Patrick's Day episodes in the past. So that's why this is kind of an interesting thing. Do a couple more news stories before we get to Corey. Boeing has filed a patent for an airplane bathroom that cleans itself.
Oh,
And I thought this headline was a little bit
Misleading?
deceptive. Yes. Because it doesn't, by clean, it's actually, what they mean is disinfect.
Right.
So if there are, say, solid or liquid waste or things, it does not clean that.
It doesn't save the flight attendant any work.
No, but what it does do is just kind of zaps the bathroom with ultraviolet light in between usages, which I suppose has some value.
Yeah, it still seems like it's an interesting idea of a technology that's been out there for a while. But I did talk about this with a flight attendant, and she was disappointed when I explained what clean meant. So.
And yes, is this new special bathroom going to wipe up all the water around the sink that all the people never remember to wipe before you leave the thing?
No.
Hey, Chris, do you remember when San Francisco installed those self-cleaning toilet outhouses in the parks and around the city?
Those are different. Those actually spray the inside with jets of water. So you definitely don't want to be inside one of those either when they're self-cleaning. But
I was thinking it's good that this one's light-related, because if they were trying to copy that and we ran into a little turbulence, I mean, there's no way the water wouldn't leak out somehow into the cabin.
I disagree, Chris. If I'm a homeless guy, I would want to be in the bathroom while it's being cleaned because it's a free shower. Exactly. You got to be thinking of these things.
Do you notice how Gary just kind of threw it in there that he's not homeless anymore?
I have, so,
now that Gary has an apartment, he just wanted to remind us of that he's not.
I've never been homeless. I've simply been houseless.
There is a difference.
Big difference. This thing with Boeing and the self-cleaning bathroom, this is one of the things I really don't think should be a patent, because it's really just taking an already existing technology, ultraviolet lights, and putting it somewhere. I don't know why putting ultraviolet lights in a bathroom is patentable any more than putting it in a kitchen or putting it in the garage. It's just taking two obvious things and kind of putting them together. It may not have been done before, but I don't think that makes it patentable.
Chris, Corey's standing by.
Oh, sorry. Have I not invited him? Sorry. Go ahead.
Even though we're inviting Corey, I don't want you to forget my favorite news item of the week.
What was your favorite news item, Jen?
Tourists arrested after treasure hunt in Jerusalem. A U.S. tourist is being held by authorities in Israel after allegedly digging for treasure in an ancient quarry. I love this kind of stuff.
This tourist's name was Nicolas Cage.
Well, actually, the coolest part of the story, which I didn't realize, now I haven't been to Jerusalem yet, is that he was in this, they described it as a quarry, but it's underground caves underneath the old city of Jerusalem. So it really is like a scene out of Raiders of the Lost Ark or, pick your favorite movie.
I want this to be a movie. I do. Just this one article. Authorities found evidence of digging and limestone rocks were discovered in his backpack.
And a copy of the U.S. Constitution.
Well, and it's interesting. Apparently, they do tours, and he just hid to stay inside after the tours were done.
If I'd met this 19-year-old tourist when I was 19, and he told me he was going to be doing this, I would probably join him. I would not have the sense that I could possibly be arrested. I would want to do it too. I'd be like, ooh, sneak in, spend the night, hidden treasure.
Yeah, there's actually a whole bunch of caves and tunnels under Jerusalem. And there is a legend that the Ark of the Covenant is actually down there. And the reason they don't do archaeological investigations in a lot of that for political reasons.
Sure.
Because it's either under the Dome of the Rock, which is sacred to Jews and also the Palestinians and Muslims that control that part of the city. So basically they don't do anything. And it's very interesting, if you've ever been to Jerusalem, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is the spot where Jesus supposedly died and was buried, or was a cave, and during the time of the Crusaders, they actually chiseled away everything around the cave part, all of the rock, which is why today the tomb is just like in a little shed in the middle of the church. But it was one of these caves that you would find in Jerusalem.
I love that you know this, Gary. Did you also know that this area is an important ceremonial site for Freemasons?
That I did not know until reading the article.
I could tell you if I knew it, but I'd have to kill you.
Well, I knew the
the
one tunnel that I knew of. There's a tunnel that was discovered, I want to say within the last 10 years, maybe it was a little longer ago than that, which was one that went from a spring outside the city into one of the fountains that was apparently built by King Hezekiah and was mentioned in the Old Testament, so it was really interesting when they finally found that just recently. Corey, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. How are you guys doing?
Oh, big hug for you.
Now joining the show, already in progress.
What have I missed so far?
Travel this, travel that.
Oh, okay, the usual. Has anyone gotten kicked off a plane or brought something they weren't supposed to? I think that's pretty standard, isn't it?
Yes,
yeah,
they brought a child in a carry-on.
A child in a carry-on bag. So.
You nailed it.
Yes. Okay. Good. Well, then I'm up to speed then.
I think we could rename the show "This Week in Getting Kicked Off Planes," because really we could do an entire podcast on that.
Corey, it is so good to see you. So great to see your face. How's the Irish Fireside?
Oh, we've been busy as ever. This is always a great week because people are publishing all their Irish articles right now. So my Twitter feed can just explode and I don't have to do any work at all. So I love that part of it.
And what are you doing at the library and what town are you in?
I'm in Ajo, Arizona, a little tiny town not too far from the Mexican border. And we can thank a librarian today because I just had to tackle her for a second and she yelled mercy and gave me this room, which has all the little high school and junior high posters in the back that, are all educational.
But you're probably only allowed to be online for 30 minutes, and then somebody's going to come knock you.
They've got awesome free Wi-Fi here. It's the only place in town you can get good Wi-Fi. So, hey, when you're traveling, libraries can be a great little spot to hide out.
And is the Knock Hopple all booked up for this summer?
We are. We have a little opening in June, but we'll be filling some people's lives with some full Irish experiences as usual, so we're happy about that.
For those who haven't, why don't you explain what that is, Jeff?
Yeah, the Knock-A-Hopple experience.
Because yes, that word in and of itself are going to have people rushing to a thesaurus only to be disappointed.
Well, since I can't hear Jen, I'll fill it in. We have a cottage in Knockahapple County, Tipperary, Ireland, and we host people every summer. So we take them around, and they stay with us, and we feed them and give them lots of drinks and have a good time. Get as Irish as we can. Our neighbors stop over. Jen was there, so that's why she knows all about it.
I was just telling a friend about it and raving about it and raving about you guys. And Cora is 7 now, Corey, and she was only 1.5 when we were there. So clearly, I have to come back, and because she won't remember you, and she won't remember the experience at all.
Because she was a master at the iPad at that time, so very advanced for her years.
So it's been a while since you've been on the show.
Probably since the last St. Patrick's Day.
2 years, 2 or 3 years, probably.
So what's up in Ireland?
Oh, you know, they've had banner years for the last 2 years, and the trend is continuing. I'm not sure what the secret recipe has been. Part of it was the Wild Atlantic Way, which is a touring route that goes from the very northern point of Ireland down to the southern point. They're continuing to really see a lot of traffic heading out that way. Dublin's been really bustling right now. There's people going out there for everything. So the numbers are really high, especially in and around Dublin. So you know, that's great to see. The newest thing that they've launched, it's called the Ancient East, and it's kind of riding on the Wild Atlantic Way's success, where they're really trying to highlight some more of the inland counties and all the history and really ancient sites around there. So you know, the Boyne Valley, which is where the Battle of Boyne took place, and then there's places like the Rock of Cashel and these really historic, monumental places that are both. Some of them are ruins, some of them are just historic sites. Newgrange would be another one. That's a megalithic tomb that's been, you know, highly visited in the past, but it's really getting kind of new attention as well. I've
been there.
Yeah.
As it is one of the 3 UNESCO World Heritage Sites in the island of Ireland.
What are the other 2?
Skellig Michael and Giant's Causeway.
Yeah, Gary was great. He came on our podcast, The Irish Fireside, and talked pretty extensively about his visits there. And I think he was right on when he was talking about, like, especially places like Skellig Michael, which now is seeing a big boom because of the Star Wars.
Well, that's what my next question was going to be. Has there been an increase? Because I was telling people before Star Wars came out, it's like, you got to pay attention to Star Wars because this is supposedly where Luke Skywalker lives. And
I didn't know that going into the movie, but they started panning around this rocky island, and suddenly I turned to my wife and said, "It's Skellig Michael," and I haven't even been there, and she was like, "What?" No idea what you're talking about. Corey, you said the interior, but what I'm seeing of Atlantic's ancient east of the map they sent me is that it's the east coast. From
I guess
Dublin over to Cork, and then north from there.
Well, the focus is, I mean, there are a lot of coastal areas there, but really you are looking at that kind of arc that goes from Dublin down to Cork and then back up. So you're seeing towns like Kilkenny, Cork, Tipperary, Cashel, places that sometimes get missed. I think they pepper it in with all those coastal areas, mainly because they're already on people's routes. So this is to pull them a little bit more inland.
We loved the Rock of Cashel. Beautiful, beautiful spot, as well as we went down, you know, when you're on that, it's really a cathedral, or the old cathedral, you can look down and you can see one of the old Cistercian monasteries, or the ruins of the monastery. So we had to walk down and explore that too, and, you know, suddenly we were kids exploring the
Yeah, that other one is peculiarly named Hore Abbey, but it's H-O-R-E, but not what you expect an abbey to have in its name. But Gary, I think you were going to ask a little bit about Skellig Michael and its popularity. I think more people are hearing about it, but as you know, getting there is such a challenge and they have really strict limits on how many people can go there. So the people are really up in arms that it's going to destroy this island and that people are going to come and, you know, make it into this disaster zone. But you're not allowed to bring anything there. You're not allowed to leave anything. There are not even any toilets there. So the idea that, you know, it's going to be spoiled by visitors, it would really take changes, I think, in their policies, because the policies have been in place for years.
More likely you're going to get there and find out the weather's too rough to get out to the island. So.
Yeah, there's a higher chance, too, that it may be sold out, especially in the summer.
Sure.
And on that same note, Game of Thrones has been really pulling people up to Northern Ireland as well, because the production company is up there, and also tons of their filming is all along the Causeway Coast and inland as well. So some really spectacular places there too. So if you're going to Northern Ireland, just because of the sheer beauty of these places and how impressive they can be, you might want to just look at those sites as well, because you'll be impressed, I guarantee it.
I don't know who scopes out the locations for Game of Thrones, but one, I want that job because they go to the most interesting places. I know when we were in Morocco, they'd filmed in Essaouira, they'd filmed in Ait Ben Haddou, they'd filmed when we were in Croatia in Dubrovnik. I mean, they're really filming in, these amazing destinations and locations.
And then, go ahead, Gary.
This year, one of the places that we've been, Chris, I think Jen's been there, is Girona is going to be a filming location for King's Landing.
I haven't been there.
You haven't been there? Oh, no. Yeah, the old town of Girona is actually a really neat setting. You got a lot of these windy old stone paths and everything. And, they landed that, which I think is going to do wonders for their tourism. And I also want to say,
who don't know, Girona is on Costa Brava, north of Barcelona.
Yes, north of Barcelona, about an hour.
Very easy to get to.
I actually watched all 5 seasons of Game of Thrones over the last week and a half.
When does it start again? It's any time now, isn't it?
April 4th.
Can't wait.
Yes.
Winter is coming.
You know nothing, Jen Leo.
Well, I watch it and I enjoy it. I don't know how I'm going to stay interested now. I'm not going to give a spoiler, but one of my favorite characters.
Before Jen does to give us a spoiler.
I'm pretty sure that one of your favorite characters is still around.
Okay, good.
Yeah. In fact, I've been following a lot of fan sites, and there's been many sightings of him doing filming. So.
Excellent. Thank you.
I don't think that's a problem.
Corey, you can listen again now.
Okay. It is amazing. This was kind of my first lesson in how movie and film and television can really influence and impact an area, because Northern Ireland often gets missed, and it's really nice to see people kind of using that theme to get out there and actually see it. So, I mean, I've always heard of places that were able to draw off that, but like New Zealand and the Lord of the Rings type of thing, but I didn't know how well it applied elsewhere, and it's nice to see it firsthand.
It's funny that the more traveling you do, the more likely you're going to be sitting in some movie theater or watching some TV show and go, hey, I've been there, I know where they're filming it. I was watching one of those silly older movies with, I can't even think of what her name is, young pop star from 10 years ago, that, they did part of it in Morocco, and it's like, oh my gosh, I know where they're standing, and the more you travel, I think the more you run into that where you recognize the destinations, even if they don't talk about it, even if it's someplace where they're not trying for it to tell you that it's in Dubrovnik or the Rock of Cashel or wherever they're going.
I remember I was in County Galway. I forget the name of the castle, but they filmed the movie The Thin Man there, which was with John Wayne, and this was like in the 60s, I think, early 60s.
Oh, wow.
So 50 years ago, and they're still promoting this movie. This is still like the claim to fame for this whole region. And it's amazing. You go to Rome, and you will still see people renting Vespa scooters trying to be Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah.
And Roman Holiday is that old. And it just, I think, goes to show there's a lot of people that go to Wadi Rum. I was one of them because of Lawrence of Arabia. And the recent movie, The Martian, with Matt Damon, was also shot in Wadi Rum.
No, that was shot on Mars.
Well, Mars is a stand-in for Wadi Rum.
It was there at the bottom of the screen. They told us where it was.
Good one.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Corey.
The next big kind of almost secret is that in County Donegal, which is kind of the far north part of Ireland. The next grouping of Star Wars movies are set to be filmed there as well. So they're taking Ireland south to north and really covering it pretty well. And also that John Wayne movie, The Quiet Man, the village is Kong and the castle is
The Quiet Man. I said the Thin Man.
Yeah,
it's
okay. Yeah, the Thin Man was a different actor. That's why I was confused. Okay. How many of you have stumbled across while you were traveling an actual film crew?
I have, and I almost screwed up a shot. I was in South Korea. I was at a castle outside of Seoul, and I was walking up this back route up a hill, and I didn't know if I had done it 60 seconds earlier, I would have this white guy with a camera and it was a Korean historical. I don't know if it was a soap opera or if it was a movie or what it was, but there was a very big crew, and I would have like walked right in the middle of it and ruined it. And eventually, I just kind of stood around, and people were coming, and I was there for like a half hour. And people eventually said, "Well, are you from Hollywood?" And I'm like, "No, I'm a tourist." Like, well, you have to leave. And I should have just lied. I said like, "Oh yeah, I'm with Vanity or Variety."
Because we have done it. We have walked basically into film crews in 3 different locations. We were in Sydney, Australia, when we were walking down the street, and we noticed that the light poles were decorated with banners, but the banners said Metropolis Museum, and they were filming the Superman Returns movie. And so we started asking people, and they said, "Oh yeah, in fact, they're going to film right here a stunt shot this evening, and it's open set. You can come. You just have to be quiet." So they would come and tell us to be quiet every 5 minutes. And of course, it's deadly dull watching things being filmed. It's amazing how slow it goes. But this particular thing was a car, if you ever see the movie, careening down the steps of the Metropolis Museum out of control and just missing these pedestrians, who of course were all stuntmen, and going off launching into a restaurant. Well, it actually launches into a set of cardboard boxes that stop the fall of the car, but they had one shot at this, and so they wanted to make sure that nobody was on their phone or their camera or whatever. You can't be taking flash shots or whatever, but they did let us watch the shot. We stood there for about 2 hours as they set up, as they got ready to do this, and then the whole shot takes all of 5 seconds. And then at the end of our block, when we were in college, they filmed a scene from The Bostonians with Christopher Reeve, back before his accident, Jen. And it's just a scene where he runs out the door and runs down the street. And of course, that took an hour to film. But it was the Troy Music Hall substituted for the Boston Music Hall, and happened to be at the end of the block where we lived. And what was the third one? We were in London, and we came across them filming Hard Luck Harry with Dustin Hoffman. Was filming just on the south shore of the Thames, and we just happened to walk up and stood there with lots of other people as they were going through their lines, and then walked over to the monitors and watched to see how the shot went. And so it sounds more interesting than it actually is when you're watching it. Kind of
one
fun.
of the best places if you want to see movies being shot or television shows is Vancouver, and there's a great little short documentary someone did that lists all of the places that Vancouver has stood in for, yet it almost never plays Vancouver. So there are very few movies that use Vancouver, the city, as Vancouver. It's always something else.
Huh.
New York, it's San Francisco, whatever,
right.
But almost nothing ever takes place in Vancouver.
And that actually tapered off a lot when the Canadian dollar got to be so high. A lot of that business went away, but now that the Canadian dollar is basically 25% cheaper than the dollar, that's just really going gangbusters. We just met up last weekend with people that sat at our table on the South American cruise we did on Holland America last year, down across around the Cape Horn, the other one. No, Cape Horn. And they are from Vancouver, and they said it's just crazy now with how many film crews are there, because with the Canadian dollar being so low, this is a good time to go to Canada. Good time to go so many places with the high dollar, but Canada has got a special discount for you right now.
I'm around a lot of snowbirds right now in California and Arizona, and they're mostly from Canada, and I'm hearing the conversation. They're all reciting their new unemployment rates are higher than Canada's ever used to, and yeah, they're saying the same thing. They're just lamenting the value of their dollar, which they were pretty lucky a couple of years ago because they were coming down here and really making a killing with their money, but it came back around.
I think it's all due to oil prices.
A lot of
Once
it, yeah.
the price of oil goes back up, you'll probably see the Canadian dollar go back up as well.
And that's one of the good reasons why Canada this year, before it goes up, because you're right, it's everything. It doesn't stay the way it is. It'll change in some direction. Who knows?
Do you have any favorite towns in Canada that are sort of off of the big cities and worth a sightsee, worth a trip?
I only know Western Canada. I really haven't been to much of Eastern Canada at all.
I've been everywhere. Yeah, I've been to every province, a good chunk of the national parks in Canada at this point.
Right.
There's a lot in Eastern Canada, Newfoundland especially. I'm a big fan of Labrador. Nobody goes to Labrador. Like 95% of the tourism in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador is all in Newfoundland.
Right.
Yet Labrador, it's harder to get around. There are a lot fewer people there, so it just doesn't get as much. And even in New Brunswick, there's some really interesting stuff.
Cor and I went to a little town. Oh, I don't know if it was like an hour or 2 hours away from Calgary, but it was called Drumheller. Has anybody ever been to Drumheller? Yeah, Dinosaur capital of the world.
And the Royal Turrell Museum of Paleontology. It
was probably the best museum I'd ever been to yet.
Yeah.
Especially for kids. It was amazing. More dinosaurs than you ever knew existed, and she got to get in there and do a mini excavation project after they teach them about the different.
Did you do that inside? Because they also do walks with kids out into the hoodoos and the Badlands.
Yes.
And walk near the museum and look for fossils.
I was more disappointed than she was because she didn't know any better. But the hoodoos had gotten muddy from the night before.
Okay. I
think there had been a rain, not that morning, but the night before, and they couldn't do it in the condition of the soil. So they did move us indoors, but it was. I had all my doubts going in, going, oh man, now we got the second best, thing, and it was amazing. The indoor one was even amazing.
No, it's a great museum of paleontology. And
I'm the one to point it out that this has nothing to do with Ireland.
I was going to say, Gary, one of my
good place to go because the euro is also low this year.
Gary, I will say one of my favorite episodes on your podcast was when you were talking about in Northeast Canada, the national parks and the impossibility of getting there and the minute number of people that show up and are able to actually experience it. So thanks for sharing that one because I was
talking about Torngat Mountains National Park, which is on the northernmost tip of Labrador, but it's not just that park. Pretty much everything north of 60 degrees parallel is the number of visitors per year is under 1,000, and in some cases under 100. So in the very far north, well above the Arctic Circle, it is not uncommon that some of the parks in Nunavut are averaging 10 or 20 visitors a year. And it's very difficult. It might have been the episode I did with Eric Larson where he was talking about that's the jumping off point when he goes to the North Pole, is the northern tip of Ellesmere Island, which is the northernmost point of Canada. And that is, I think, the park there, and I can't pronounce it because it's an Inuit word, is 500 kilometers north of the northernmost human settlement in Canada. So that's how hard it is to get there.
Hey, Gary, more importantly, did you hear that you had a listener to your new podcast? Corey's been listening to your podcast?
Wow.
That was about 3 months ago, but...
Actually, Gary came on Amateur Traveler, and we did a show on all of the Canadian national parks, too. So that's a good reference.
We did it on the Canadian UNESCO World Heritage Sites.
Oh, sorry, I said national parks. Yeah, right.
So back to Ireland. Corey, how did your podcast go with Jodie Halstead about family travel? And
we had a good time. We talked about her favorite castles for going with kids, and we ended up talking about Bunratty, which you and Cora went to, which has the folk park attached to it as well. And so, yeah, Jodie really knows her stuff when it comes to traveling with families and that type of thing. So, yeah, we just put that one out this week, and it's so far, castles always draw people in. So as long as I mention it or put a photo up of a castle, at least North Americans and a couple other groups are going to guarantee to just click just because they love it.
The Bun Ready was where they had that really fun dinner, right? With the
Yeah.
entertainment.
Yeah, and the Corn Barn where they did Irish dancing and had
Mhm.
a big feed for us, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. They also have a banquet in the castle as well, a medieval banquet, which is really a lot of fun. It's a touristy type thing, but it's one of those that I still enjoy. So.
Now, where did you take us that they had that amazing craft area and artisan zone?
Oh, that was in Kilkenny. That was across from the castle in Kilkenny, the Kilkenny Craft Center. And so that's a really great shop. There's also in the village of Kerr in County Tipperary, the Crafts Council has a really great store in the old granary there as well. So anybody who wants some Irish-made items, those are really high-quality places to go and visit and shop.
I still have a purple scarf that I got out of that place. But now, speaking of artisan gifts, I hadn't been to Irish Fireside in a while. I noticed you guys opened up a shop on your site.
Yeah, we got together with a few of our favorite kind of artists who make stuff and want to sell stuff, and we've kind of worked out where we just feature different people every once in a while. We're not trying to become, you know, the Amazon of Irish stuff, but and we're not doing any of the stuff that you can get everywhere else. These are all handmade items.
So you are trying to be the Etsy of Irish-made stuff.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Okay.
So, but it's been interesting working with these people and trying to give them some, you know, different exposure, because a lot of them are kind of isolated and insulated on the internet, and they don't realize, you know, what other markets are out there. Or they haven't partnered with people. So it's been interesting. It's been a lot of fun to kind of expose them to people, and we've got an audience that just loves like handmade stuff, and if it has an Irish theme, they love that as well.
Well, the soap looks great. The scarves look great. The little clay pendants. I always like seeing what you're doing new. How about the walking tours? Sorry, Chris. How about the walking tours? Are you still doing the walking tour segment of your site?
Not so much. I mean, that's something that we'll do posts on every once in a while, but it hasn't become a big emphasis on us. But like Kilkenny was kind of the primary area that we really focused on for walking tours, just because it's a great walking medieval town. So if you're ever going through Ireland, it's about 2 hours from Dublin, and it's one of those towns that, you know, you go down the narrow streets, and it has something called the butter slip, which used to be the old kind of pathway steps down to the river, but it's like a little hallway or a tunnel, so it's really a lot of fun. And then there's of course cathedrals and castles to see it on that route as well.
Corey, I have a question. In the United States and in other countries, we celebrate St. Patrick's Day by wearing green and getting drunk. In Ireland, I have a feeling that it is a very different sort of celebration. What are the primary differences between the celebration of St. Patrick's Day in the U.S. versus in Ireland?
Well, it depends on where you are. If you're in Dublin, they've pretty much adopted the global view of St. Patrick's Day with parades and drinks and lots.
But that's a relatively new thing with the last 20 years.
Even probably more the last 10 years even.
Yeah.
But like when I talk to the family and friends that we have there, they're going to talk more about, well, they'd go to mass. The older people might wear like pinned shamrocks to their lapel. But other than that, it's just another holy day. Nothing. The whole idea of going out drinking. Now they'll probably do a little bit of that. We still send everybody over there a St. Patrick's Day card, but we don't receive one in return because they wouldn't go that route either. So St. Patrick's Day is just more of a commemorative day to honor their patron saint, more so than anything.
And in terms of going out drinking, they call that Tuesday, right?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There's a couple other days too.
There was a great video I saw online that had what if, because it talked about how we celebrate Cinco de Mayo and St. Patrick's Day. It's like, what if other countries celebrated the 4th of July like we celebrate their holidays? And it was people dressing up like Uncle Sam just getting hammered. And I was like, we should do this. We should export the 4th of July around the world as a drinking holiday with like fake Uncle Sam beards everybody could wear and a red, white, and blue top hat. I think that'd be awesome.
They've been trying this in Ireland. They've been trying this in Ireland actually. So if you go to Ireland around the 4th of July, and you go to a place like, there's this store called Lidl, which is kind of like an Aldi. It's a German grocery store. They have a whole American section, and so they have hot dogs in a jar and brine, which I don't, and all these other like American things. So you can get cookies, like chocolate chip cookies, and you can get brownies, and you can get popcorn, and all these, I
Kraft
guess,
macaroni and cheese.
No, they don't go that far. That's like all the things that I would say is quintessential American. They skip that, and then you get like these weird like jelly beans would be like another one that would be on the stack, and I don't quite understand it. But they also in the town of Moneygall, County Tipperary, now have a big 4th of July festival, which it was 4 days, but I think they've done it now where it's just a weekend. And it's a country music festival, and it's become kind of a thing where people kind of come from all over to listen to the music, and it's a big kind of street festival. It's kind of fun, actually.
And you say country music, American-style country music?
American-style country music, yeah. Good clarification there. So it's, yeah, but it's not necessarily American singers or American groups. It's just Irish people. Some of them doing more country music karaoke, and other ones who are actually legitimate bands who do really well.
Doesn't this make you want to go there during this time to see the humor of it all?
It does make you kind of think, wow. And it's weird to see people in Ireland with big cowboy hats and cowboy boots and trying to do line dancing. And there's only like 3 of them doing it, because it's not, line dancing hasn't necessarily taken off there. So it's very strange. But then there's always an American or 2 in the group who's like, well, be more than willing to come out and join them and do their little electric slide and whatever else they're doing.
Dude, I'm going to get T-shirts made that say, "Kiss me, I'm American," for the 4th of July celebration in Ireland. And you think about it, it makes more sense for Ireland to celebrate the 4th of July than it does for us to celebrate St. Patrick's Day because, one, the holiday is fundamentally anti-British, right? It's the celebration of being the British. And 2, everybody I have ever met in Ireland has a relative in the United States. They all do. I don't think I've ever seen an exception to that rule. And so they have greater ties to us than we do to them. I mean, the idea of, everyone's Irish on St. Patrick's Day, but the actual number of people in the country that are of Irish ancestry is, I don't know, maybe, 10%? Something like that? But
no, it's
the other way around.
There was a number recently, and I wanted to say it was 30%. It was higher than I thought.
I think that's really high. Because the largest ethnic group in the U.S. is actually Germans.
German, yeah.
And I think they're around a 35% or something.
I thought that was more like 50%, but...
well, I think you're onto something with this exporting the 4th of July. The Irish have shown that they're ripe for accepting it. So patent that idea and start cashing in as quick as possible.
12.9% of the people in the U.S. have Irish, so you were much closer than I was.
Yeah, and you also, and I say this as someone of German descent.
Yeah, me too.
We don't have a lot of holidays. It became decidedly unfashionable to be German during the First World War, and the Second World War didn't help. So we don't have the "Kiss Me, I'm German" shirts or the "Parking here for Germans only." We just don't. Even though we're the largest ethnic group, we don't really have anything.
Well, during World War I, it was illegal to teach German. That's
my great
Lutheran churches and Catholic churches, changed to English because people weren't trusting what was going on in those places where they were speaking.
My great aunt spoke German. I remember her speaking German to me, and my great grandmother spoke German, and that's kind of where it kind of died. But where I'm from in Wisconsin, there were newspapers in German in the early 20th century, late 19th century, and it was a thing. And
my mom learned German at home, and her family came over in the 1850s. So basically, they were still teaching German to the kids not quite 100 years later.
Gary, what do you mean you're the largest ethnic group? I didn't know that.
Germans are the largest single ethnic group in the United States.
How could you have more than the Chinese?
Because they're not everywhere.
In the United States.
Yeah. You live in California.
Not more than in China, but like in the world, just in the United States. Because there were so many German immigrants in the 19th century. and
Oh, okay.
we have
And
bread.
and we came over so long ago that yeah, we interbred. So you're half German or quarter
Okay,
German.
so once again, the Germans are invading another country, this time Ireland. But here's an interesting fun fact for you. Name the only two presidents with German ancestry. One's pretty obvious. I'll give it to you. It's Dwight Eisenhower.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Oh,
The
yeah, that's
second
so
is not so obvious. It's Barack Obama.
No way.
Oh, sure,
I was
that's
going
right.
to
He's
guess
half
that as
German.
a goof.
who has Irish roots. So there you have it.
That I did know.
Yeah. I was interested. You talked about the interest in Americans in Ireland and how it hasn't waned at all, over the last few years since it really picked up a lot. What was it, 3 years ago, with the big campaign they did? Basically come back to your roots and I'll come home again. And I noticed recently. In fact, the reason I knew what was going on with the Irish Tourism Board is I had just sent them an email saying that the download of the episode we did. The last one we did on Ireland, which was back in October of 2013, had just reached 20,000 downloads. But if you compare it to the ones that were done just around there, that's like 33% more than anything else we were talking about at the time. It's still, I look at my numbers, people were much more interested in Ireland than they were in, the other ones we talked about at the time were Brazil and domestic destinations like Baton Rouge and Japan. But, Ireland was just like a different level up there.
Well, I think that Ireland and Italy, and to a certain extent France and England, have kind of an emotional attachment to people in the United States that you never saw as many visitors to, say, Spain, because we don't have the history. Because if you were from Spain and you moved, you went to one of their territories in Mexico or South America. And Germany, going back to that, there's not a whole lot of Germans that have any desire to go back to Germany, really. That the number of tourists in the U.S., I think, is probably lower as a rate than it may be to other European countries. But Ireland has done a fantastic job with that.
Well, I'm seeing more people who are interested in going back to Germany next year, around the time of the 500th anniversary of the Reformation. There's a number of things that are going on there. I'm actually going in June. It's sort of in advance of that, going to the central heart of Germany around Wittenberg and places like that. So that should be interesting to sort of get ready for 2017.
That reminds me, also in Ireland, this is the 100th anniversary of the 1916 uprising, which is the kind of pivotal point. Another, similarly to what you're saying with Germany, big draw, big event, and so that's the Easter uprising. So in 2 weeks, big kickoff, a lot of events tied to that in Ireland too. So anyway,
when are you heading over? When are you heading over, Corey?
First week in May.
This is also the 40th anniversary of the founding of U2. So
is that right?
It is. They were formed in 1976.
And my podcast and blog has 10-year anniversary last month. So there we
Really?
go. It's a year of anniversaries.
Congratulations. And what's new with Liam? Don't forget to give Liam Shar Jewelry a plug on our podcast. We have 2,500 immediate downloads with many, many more following that.
Well, he's busy making jewelry for St. Patrick's Day, and so a lot of Irish balik and that type of thing. We make the jewelry out of broken dishes. So there's our plug. I won't go any farther than that.
Well, you can tell the URL.
LiamSharJewelry.com. Thanks, Jen.
We'll put a link to that in the show notes because I couldn't even understand it as you said it there. So.
Oops.
Do you want to move on to picks of the week then? Start to wrap things up?
Sure.
I will go first this week because
Look at
I
you,
have recently
Gary. Look at
purchased. So I think in the last show I talked about how I bought a brand new camera. I've moved from Nikon to Sony. I have a Sony A7R II. Wonderful image quality. Just got done editing all my first batch of photos from India. But I recently purchased this bad boy, which is, so if you're listening at home, this is a tripod. It's a carbon fiber tripod from a company called Really Right Stuff. And there's a Really Right Stuff ball head on it. And I got to say, this thing is built like a brick outhouse to keep the show family friendly. it's carbon fiber, but man, this is so much more sturdy and so much more well built, and you could tell it right out of the package than my old one. And the ball head is just awesome. One clip, can pretty much do anything with it. I got a brand new L plate for my camera, so I'm really, really looking forward to this. And also, as kind of goes along with it, this thing from Photo and Tech, it's a very small wireless shutter release for my camera. So that's always handy when you're using your tripod. So if you're doing some landscape shots. And I'm going to be going to Ethiopia in a couple of days, and I'll be using this one on there. We'll be up in northern Ethiopia, so I hope to be getting some great shots from that. So, and I should also warn you that the Really Right Stuff tripod and ball head, no matter which one you get, they have a wide selection of stuff. It's expensive, but it's great. And it's the kind of things you can buy once and use it forever.
And is it self-cleaning?
It disinfects. It doesn't clean. Chris, you got something for us?
I have one that I haven't tried, but I find curious. It's a website called gocambio.com where you can trade language lessons for housing.
Ooh, that sounds really cool.
So you basically, I will teach you English and you will put me up in your house. Or I will have somebody come and stay with me and they will teach me Chinese, which is, what we're learning a little bit of from our people who are staying with us. So gocambio.com.
Interesting.
Cambio being the Spanish word for exchange.
My husband was just a couple days ago at an Airbnb. I can't probably pronounce the town, but a teeny tiny town, Quartzsite, Arizona. Mm-hmm. And anyway, he said there were no permanent buildings there, but the tie-in is that his host did online English lessons abroad.
Yeah, there's a number of those that happen on Skype.
I didn't even know about that, but you do have to have your teacher's certification or something. There's something official. I was like, oh, wow, that sounds really fun. He's like, well, there's a whole certification process.
Yeah, I did a test once for a company that does something similar, and I had a woman from Guatemala who did a couple Spanish lessons with me on Skype. So yeah, it's a thing. We should maybe even have Benny Lewis on the show at some point. I know he has a book coming out soon.
He's the guy that learns all those languages really quickly.
Irish polyglot, yeah.
Yeah.
Sticking to the Irish theme.
Actually, sticking with the theme of learning languages, I'll give you a bonus website, which is one that I have started to use. I haven't gotten real far yet, but it's yoyochinese.com. And Yo-Yo Chinese has some great videos in terms of learning Chinese, and one of the things I liked about them, like even just the first lesson, they teach you this word, but then if you combine it with this word, you get another noun, and if you combine it with this word, so for instance, cell phone is hand machine, and airplane is flying machine, and helicopter is vertical flying machine, and so they sort of teach you some of the ways with just a few words you can build a bigger vocabulary. So yoyochinese.com.
That is double plus good.
Well, I need to go, so I'm going to give my tip really quickly. Abercrombie & Kent has their Europe travel summer sale going on right now. So if you book by June 30th, guests can save up to $1,000 on Europe's top destinations, while solo travelers can save up to $1,500. And they have a great family travel section that I've been drooling over. So go take a look. AbercrombieKent.com.
Excellent.
I guess that leaves me. My recommendation is going to be the Farmette Cookbook. This book it's a cookbook, but I think people would really enjoy it. This woman named Imen McDonnell had married an Irish farmer and moved to County Limerick, I think it was about 10 or 12 years ago, and she started out as a blogger, writing about just her experiences there. Now has a cookbook, and it's probably one of the most beautiful cookbooks I've ever seen. The subtitle is Recipes and Adventures from My Life on an Irish Farm. She has a lot of recipes from her mother-in-law, who taught her a lot of the tricks of Irish cooking, and she took all the photos, and she's like definitely one of those stylist people. So her photos are fantastic and like over the top with little beautiful details in them and that type of thing. And the recipes are really delicious. I've been to her house and she's cooked for me. The woman is a very talented cook as well. So that's the Farmette cookbook. It just came out this week too, so it's brand new.
That sounds like a great gift.
Absolutely. I recommend that one with no reservations. It's a great book for anybody who likes cooking or stories about maybe expat living or marrying an Irish farmer, which seems to be some girls have that dream.
Dreamy!
All right, then let's wrap things up. Chris, what's new in the Amateur Traveler this week?
We just did a show on Basel, Switzerland. No comments. Has anybody been to Basel?
I have been there, actually.
Of course you have, Gary.
Wanted to make a Faulty Towers joke.
Yes.
Jen, where can people find you online?
You can find me. I'm now writing for a new website. Well, the website's not new. I'm newly writing for a San Diego regional website called yournorthcounty.com, where I am doing the occasional weekend getaway and topical news around San Diego, which is fun and keeps me busy. And you can also find me at the Women in Travel Summit this weekend in Irvine. I'll be talking about family travel there on a panel.
I did not get invited to that.
This might be one of our last year too.
I did not understand this.
Well, what's interesting about this one is usually when I talk about family travel, it's for people that already have kids and how to travel more smoothly with them. This is an interesting audience where they were telling us that we're going to be speaking to some women who don't have kids yet, but we're talking about how travel will change as you become a parent. So it's going to be a different audience than I'm used to.
You'll bring twice as much stuff.
Corey, where can people find you online?
IrishFireside.com, also Irish Fireside on Twitter and Facebook. And then we also have the Ireland Travel Kit, which is a site of unique and offbeat places in Ireland.
And we should also note to search for Irish Fireside on iTunes.
That's true, yes, thank you.
How many episodes of the podcast have you done now?
148, so we're not quite as prolific as Chris. And
so
you guys are catching up too.
The sad thing is that you're not. It's not so much that you didn't do as much as Amateur Travelers. You're not even keeping up with This Week in Travel, and we know how pathetic that is.
I like to say it's quality, not quantity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're not going for either on This Week in Travel. We find if you set your goals low,
As usual, you can find me at everything-everywhere.com. And this week on the Global Travel Conspiracy, I interview Alistair Humphreys, who is an explorer who has bicycled around the world, rode across an ocean, and walked across the desert. So you can check that out on the show. And until next time, get outside and make sure you take a visit to the wonderful nation of Ireland.